Musicians, have you ever felt like no matter how much you promote your music, people just don't take action? They love your songs, they follow you online, they'll even tell you how much they love your music, but when it comes time to buy a ticket, a t-shirt, or even stream your new release, there's crickets. What if I told you it's not their fault, but more importantly, it's not your fault either? Most musicians think marketing is about just getting exposure, but in reality, it's about influence. It's about understanding how people make decisions and what drives them to act. Now, that's exactly why I brought in today's special guest. Joining us is Paul Ross, one of the world's leading experts in subconscious influence, persuasion, and hypnotic language. You may know him from his pioneering work in NLP, Neuro-Linguistic Programming, working one-on-one with its co-founder, Dr. Richard Bandler, and his more than a decade experience of helping high-level professionals use psychology and language to shape human behavior. So, today, he's here for you, the independent musician, the artist who's tired of feeling invisible in a crowded industry. So if you've ever wondered why your fans are hesitating to take action and how to change that, stay locked in today because what you're about to learn might just shift everything you thought you knew about selling music. Paul, thanks for joining us today.
Wow, well, that was one whopper of an introduction. Let me just clear the record here. Richard was a mentor of mine, but we never worked together on anybody or co-taught anything. Just to be clear, I don't want to take credit for something I didn't do.
Well, no worries. I appreciate that clarification. And one thing I wanted to really kick this off with is I know a lot of musicians struggle with the mindset around selling. Some of them feel that it's manipulative or pushy, but I think when you have something valuable to share, you're just sharing that thing of value and figuring out how you can best present it. So, with your experience in reframing and how people view things, how would you inform musicians to reframe their opinion around sales so that it actually feels more comfortable and seeing it as a natural part of their career?
Well, first of all, you're never selling your music, your CD, your merch, your concert tickets. Forget that. You will never think about it that way ever again. You're selling decisions and good feelings about decisions.
Interesting.
Let that sink in. And once you grasp that concept, you can now begin to, in your own ways, for ways that I never need to be told, or maybe perhaps will remain unconscious to you, you can come to the realization, recognition, understanding that as you really cement in this idea, embed this idea that you're only selling decisions and good feelings about decisions, how does everything now change as you begin to think about yourself as a decision service technician? You're in the service of people making good decisions because people just don't know how to make good decisions. People used to say you have to get people to know, like, and trust you. I don't know how true that is for musicians. They need to like your music and you need to be a likable performer, but that's not going to put bread on the table or pay the rent. You also have to recognize it's your job to engineer these decisions. And money, if you think about it, is just an exchange of energy. Your music is extraordinarily important. I could not live my life without music. It lifts our mood, it shapes our thinking, our psychology. What you're offering is very valuable. And so if you do not get rewarded, not just from the reward of doing your passion, but if you're not rewarded monetarily, then you're cheating people because people have a difficult time putting value on things they don't pay for. That's a twist in human psychology, but it's true. It's a reality. You automatically, if you either accept reality and dance with it and play with it, or it will automatically work against you. So that's the reality. But also on a deeper, and I hate the word metaphysics because if you don't look at it correctly in a traditional philosophical sense, if you look at it in the sloppy thinking, woo-woo, new age sense, in in this sense, you're creating an energetic imbalance in the universe because you're putting energy out, but you're not getting the energy of money, which is really just stored energy. It's choice, it's freedom, the ability to do things that you couldn't do before, the ability to share experiences with people you love that you couldn't otherwise do. So as you now begin to really cement and take on and begin to make part of your identity, these new understandings, the more you find yourself experiencing a growing focus on what it is I continue to share as we continue to explore together today. I'm not sure all the ways you might stop and think to yourself, this Paul is really amazing. And he's single. Hmm. And I'm a lady who wants to meet him. Just part of my career, as you know, is I started my career as a hypnotic seduction
Yeah.
guru. And I taught men emotional intelligence and charisma through the power of shifting their own beliefs about themselves using NLP and hypnosis, and then speaking in a way that's emotionally expressive. You could think about it as the verbal music of seduction, in a sense.
That's very interesting, Paul. And one thing that I wanted to touch on is given your history and your expertise in the seduction market, I have often heard I do want to get into this too, with one of your mentors, Gary Halbert,
Yes.
mentioned that
Yes.
selling and seduction have a lot of parallels. And so I figured, like, wow, Paul must have a lot of window of insight into that.
Well,
What would your opinion be on that?
that's true. A lot I learned from Gary. Richard was my mentor as far as NLP and the rest of it. Gary was my marketing and copywriting mentor. If you look at any of my back of the comic books, Scream, I think it was Dan Kennedy, the OG of marketing, who
Oh, yeah.
said, the man who whispers in the well the stories that he has to tell will never enjoy the shiny dollars as he who stands up tall and hollers. And Gary said many things. One of the things that struck me is no one has time to try to figure out your pathetic subtlety.
Wow.
Yes, but he did compare it like if you go out on a date, which I don't necessarily believe in dating, you don't ask the woman to marry you. It's too big a leap. You've got to, you know, set the mood and begin to learn to know each other. Now you can do that quickly,
Yeah.
gals, and skip the traditional dating bullshit. But all that said, yeah, it's very similar. Think about it. If you're selling, you have to do your prospecting and outreach. You have to make your initial contact, get attention quickly. You have to get rapport. You have to do your qualifying questions and find out what's important to the prospect. You have to make your trial close, overcome objections, go for the close again. And if you're really good at, you know, people may begin to have certain thoughts as they think about what I'm good at. I don't mean play with the puppy thoughts. If you're really good, then you might get referrals.
Very interesting. And I do also recall that one time Gary said in one of his seminars he was giving with Ted Nichols, I believe, he said, it's not just about how you ask it, it's about when you ask it. And so I'm curious of your thoughts of how you would implement that whenever you're selling either one to one or even one to many when you're on stage, of knowing when is the right time to ask.
I think I don't like the idea of ask. I like the idea of planting the idea in the subconscious mind of the audience or prospect or whatever, that they are through the course of listening, making that decision. So you don't really ask, you just offer the information and opportunity to make the good decision. My cat NECA, who has to go to the VET in a few hours. She can't spell very well. That's her blurry butt. NECA, don't do your anus to people. I mean, go that way, love bug. I'm a cat. I'm a crazy cat guy. So, ladies, if you don't like cats, don't write me, or don't write me when you Google me and find me because I love cats. See the shirt?
Cats and money,
Yeah, I'm
right
a
there.
crazy little cat guy.
Wonderful. So interesting. So your framing of it, and this is something I've noticed from you. I've watched a lot of your interviews in preparation for this, is you're very, very particular about the language you use.
Absolutely.
And so I'm assuming a lot of that comes from your training in NLP. So I'll ask this for the audience. Why such a specificity on the language? Because I know some people may say, that's just semantical differences. What's your opinion?
Semantics are extraordinarily important. Look, language structures consciousness, shapes decisions, drives behavior. I got that from one of my other I've been so lucky with teachers and mentors. My meditation teacher, Shinzen Young, talked about that
Interesting.
and how thought does that as well. So it's just incredibly powerful. if you want to leave it on the table, go ahead, leave it on the table. I prefer to wield it in my arsenal.
Yeah, interesting. I that kind of reminds me of a phrase I heard from another hypnotist slash practitioner in influence, Marshall Silver. He said,
Marshall's a dear friend of mine. He's going to interview me live in his
"Oh, you're
studio
doing Studio
in
Money?
Carlsbad, about 45 minutes from here. And he's going to interview me live in his studio.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing that. I saw
I've
y'all
known
kind
Marshall. I've
of.
known Marshall since 1990, 1991 when we went on the same TV show, Montel Williams show.
Interesting. Yeah, I recall y'all. I posted about you, and I'm friends with Marshall on Facebook, and he was like, "Oh, that's great. You're talking to Ross. I've always wanted to chat with him, and so that's great that you guys got hooked up to do an interview at Studio Money." But one principle that Marshall taught that I thought was super important was play all your aces. And so this idea of if you don't use your language intentionally, you kind of get used by your language. And so, and I mean, that's just, an idea there where people fundamentally, if they played their aces, meaning they utilized everything they could utilize
You
to its
have to.
full capability.
You have to. In this life, you have to. And I think it's actually a joy to utilize every talent you have and to learn new ones. I don't think that's a bad thing. I think that's a joyous thing.
Absolutely, absolutely. A lot of musicians here on this live stream may be in that process of learning new skills, learning how to sell and be comfortable with it, because there's a lot of hypnotic societal programming against becoming an entrepreneur or pursuing money. And especially creatives, I feel, fall prey to a lot of that
Oh,
problem.
believe me, I did for a long time.
Interesting. What was the
Popped up
moment
from
that
time
kind
to
of
time.
broke you out of that spell?
Just a lot of meditation. Meditation practice allowed me to see my patterns arise
Mm.
before they distorted my thinking and drove my behavior. I strongly believe that hypnosis and mindful meditation are great hand-in-hand partners in freeing people. See, a great shift comes from when I work with clients, I can shift beliefs about certain things, even shift their beliefs about who they are, et cetera, et cetera. And the big shift for people comes not when I change a particular behavior or a particular belief, but when I help them, assist them in creating a state of consciousness where they're no longer looking through their beliefs, they're looking at them. Creating that state of witness consciousness that gives you the limitless compassion, that gives you the courage, that gives you the clarity to look at your patterns. So think of formulas are stupid, but musicians play scales and chords. Think of it as a C plus 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 major chord.
Interesting.
Listen, I got to tell you something. To me, music is musicians are magical. I could never do what they do. When I was a kid, my mother played the story. It was a record about the musicians of Bremen, Bremen. You know that kid story about the musicians would come and play their music and go from town to town. I thought, how magical is that? You musicians, I think maybe you take your art for granted, what it does for people, but the ability, for example, to compose a beautiful piece of music, to me, it's like flapping my arms and flying away. I think the same thing about painters. People who can really do like photorealism in their
Uh,
paintings. Like what can I curse on your show?
yes, be free to do so.
Like what the holy pig fuck is that all about?
Absolutely. I remember even people who, I mean, it's simple in concept, but in execution, it's a lot more complicated. But people like Bob Ross who would do, mountains and I was just mesmerized as a young kid, just like, how do you do that?
Yeah, no, people ask me if I'm related to him. I wish he put me in his will.
Oh, that's right. Because hey, you should lean into it. Lean into it. It's a pickup line. No, I'm just kidding. No, no, you probably know that better than I would. But I'm interested. So one of the ways that you've communicated well, I should say communicate. One of the ways that you've sold is one to many. So I'm curious, what are some of the most important things when someone is on stage, right? They're doing whether it's a presentation or they're doing a performance. What are ways that we can subtly prime the audience to be open to purchasing our offer, even if
Well,
we're not co.
this is going to sound really strange. And my message to everyone watching is it's the very ways of thinking and acting and speaking that stand so far outside of what you're used to doing that hold the potential for bringing you results that are far beyond what you're used to doing. So get excited. The more you might feel yourself kind of thinking, there's no way I could do that, that feels ooky or weird, the more you might find yourself stopping and thinking, wait a minute, that's actually a bridge. That's a doorway to something I've never experienced before. So before I go on stage, I would say something along the lines, you got to fit it into your own personality. I would say something along the lines, I'm just spitballing this. Uh, Before I share my music with you tonight, I just want to say how much I love music because music is a doorway into your fondest memories and it speaks to your deepest emotions. And sometimes a really good piece of music can allow a person to stop and really think to themselves how much they want to keep that song with them, how they want to continue to have it, not just hear it once, but to have it and to keep it in their heart and in their mind and even in their soul. So, if that's the case, if you come talk to me after the performance and let's get going. Now you're implanting all sorts of suggestions, and that they're as they listen to the music, they're going to want more of it. And the only way to get it, by implication, is by buying the CD, buying the album, hiring them to play more.
I love that. Yeah, that.
Now, I know if I could see your audience, I would. Many people would be shaking their heads like, "What the fuck? No way!" But I'm telling you, that's the kind of thing that will move people. I taught a musician to do that in order to pick up women.
Oh, interesting.
He was having trouble with women. I said, "What do you do?" He said, "I play flamenco guitar." I said, "Are you out of your fucking stupid mind and you're not getting women swarming you?" He said, "Well, they're interested while I'm playing, but then they don't talk to me." I said, "Dude, let me fix this for you." I charged them some change, but I'm worth
Yeah,
it.
absolutely. That's so cool. I love the basically we're getting them to go into their mind and think of like those fond memories and associate those feelings they have with us. It seems like there's some of that maybe at play
Yes,
there.
and we're also future pacing the idea that they're going to want more of the music, but we're not saying how. We're not saying buy my say CD. You just say come up and talk to me after,
Interesting.
so
So
they can imagine for themselves what that's going to look like and what they'll be doing.
yeah, that's so interesting. What are some? I noticed that with persuasive and hypnotic language, there's certain phrases that we can use as you can call them prefixes to our statements or a command potentially. What are some of your favorite ways to subtly introduce a command, whether that's, commanding someone to get into the music or commanding someone to maybe.
Yeah, I'll give you. I'm gonna give. I really shouldn't give away this much, but what the fuck? I'm in a jovial mood, and why not? I'm gonna give the ladies and gentlemen, or however you identify. I don't care. As long as I don't have to clean up after it, I don't have to pay taxes for it, and it doesn't keep me up at night. You're all good in my book. There's t- a phrase that's very hypnotically powerful. That phrase is find yourself.
Mm,
As you're listening to me and I'm sharing this wonderful learning with you, I'm not sure in what ways you might stop and find yourself feeling a growing desire to connect further. Maybe in those places where you keep your fondest wishes, your deepest hopes, maybe the desires that you pressed down and pushed away because you had given up on ever finding. But as those arise now, and you hear my voice coming from those special places, I'm not sure as it comes over and over and over again, just all the ways you feel compelled to reach out, Google me, find me, put the work in. Because the more you put the work into finding someone special, the more likely it is The reality will deliver this person right to your doorstep, ladies. I'm sneaking that in there.
Wonderful, dude. I
But you
love
know
all
what's funny? When I do this, it scares off 90% of them, but 10% see. The really adventurous one think to themselves, yeah, I want to see what this fucking guy's got. Show me.
No,
Those are
this
the
has been
ones who wind up, we have mutual enjoyment because they want to see.
Yeah, absolutely. This stuff is fascinating to me. I've been a big nerd when it comes down to persuasion, influence, psychology. Those are things that interest me a lot. So I think this is absolutely gold for the musicians that are paying attention and really
Oh,
internalizing
they
this
better be
information.
paying attention.
They are
They,
going to get
trust
so
me,
much.
the way I'm
Yeah,
using my language, they're paying attention. Some of them are maybe a little tweaked at me.
we'll
I
bring it
want
up
to
later,
see.
right?
I want to see.
Wonderful. So, let's kind of dive. Let's go from the one to many aspect of it to the one to one. So
Mhm.
let's say it's post show, right? We're over at the merch table. What could be some ways, whether
Well,
that's
let's reframe it. I learned
okay,
this from Richard Bandler. He's still on stage. He says, by the way, as you go by the table,
mm,
please stop to talk to me. And all right. So good night and goodbye. He said, bye now, by the table. By the table is a phonetic ambiguity. Is it BYE or BUY? And I'm telling you, back in the old days when we used to sell CDs and tapes, now all our products are digital downloads. That would work every time. Podcast host. But when trouble calls, he is super page.
that's right. That's right. I'll come in with I'll solve all your problems with my direct response skills. That's
Hence
that's
my
what I'll
Green
come in.
Lantern ring, the old superhero.
Oh, there you go.
But I gave it up because superheroes don't get paid and seldom get laid. And, and I hung up my cape, came down off my cross. Messiahs don't get paid or laid. It's so what's the point?
Oh man, that's so cool, man. So let's dive into this. I have one kind of final big question, and then maybe potentially I can check the chat here to see if we've got
Yeah,
some
check the
questions from the
chat.
audience. So if a musician watching this could take away one core thing when it
Yeah.
comes to influencing their fan base, whether that's their perception and frame of it, or any kind of mindset around it, what kind of wisdom
Two
would you
things,
impart to them?
Jackson, it's the two things I said. You're never selling your CD, your concert, your merch. You're selling decisions and good feelings about decisions. Those decisions are made on the unconscious or subconscious level.
Hmm.
And think of yourself from now on, not just as a musician. Never think of yourself as selling again or a salesperson. You are a decision service technician. I invite your audience, try that out right now. Put your hand over your heart, close your eyes, and say to yourself, I'm a salesperson, or I got to sell my music. Notice how that feels on the body. Now open your eyes, put your hand back on your center line here in your heart space, close your eyes, and think, I'm a decision service technician. Notice how that may even begin to bring a little bit of a smile to your face as it totally reframes what you're doing. A decision service technician. How can you be scared of that? You're servicing people to make good decisions. You're engineering a decision. There's a distinction. No one likes, well, I like the idea of manipulator. I'm very good at it. Thank you very much. And it serves the other person because you can feel better and better
That's interesting.
and even better the more you grow fascinated by what it is, that growing focus that allows you to come over and over and over again. That there's a new direction, an amazing new direction you have to explore. Isn't that right, ladies? I'm just
He is
fucking
slick,
people
man. He
today.
is.
I'm full of piss and vinegar.
I knew it was going to be fun and a very fun, energetic, colorful
Let's
interview.
take some questions. We
I
did
know,
say
yeah.
half an
I would
hour, but I'll
love
take some
for those of
questions.
y'all in the chat. I would love to see y'all's questions. So
It's a
drop that
unique
in there.
opportunity, and I'm not
I
going to
know,
be
seriously,
forever.
and if I don't see any come up here that I think are worth it, I will also. I have a
I
couple
don't
of
care.
questions.
I like hate and I like insult. Your hate
Now,
makes me
while
stronger.
those are coming up, I did have a question that arose
You're,
while you were speaking,
yeah.
which is I know that word manipulation is sort of a word that, you know, I have a certain frame about it, but I want you to explain to the audience
Sure.
why maybe that term manipulation is misunderstood or there's a wrong frame around it that people.
Well, they've been manipulated to believe that manipulation is bad. Talk about manipulation. Now, that's manipulation. Think
Okay.
about manipulation just means there's two definitions. One is to convince through misleading, misdirection, or deception, which I'm not talking about. I'm talking about to move people with deliberateness and skill. To look, everyone, hold up your hand. Everybody, now do that. Your thumb and your fingers are used to manipulate things in the world. Manipulation comes from the word mani, I think it's M-A-N-I, which is the Latin root for hand. When this surgeon, listen to me, I underwent 5, 6 months ago some minor surgery, but I was so happy that surgeon expertly manipulated the arms of that robotic thing that made the small incisions. I was very happy he did that. He knew how to manipulate that piece of equipment. And so for me, manipulation is not about pushing down on pain points. It's not about lying. It's not about withholding pertinent information or facts or telling outright lies. It's simply moving people through a chain of emotions. I have a nephew who's a magician, and he says everything he does is meant to set up the next move and the next move. And sometimes he misdirects people's focus so they're not looking, so he can set up the next move. But they're all designed to, at the end of it, produce a state of wonder for people. How did you do that? Wonder and disbelief and amazing shit. Now, you can abuse this stuff. Anything powerful can be abused. A knife, a scalpel could be used to do life-saving surgery. It could slit someone's throat. I can use my words to create emotional states, to engineer and amplify emotional states that people never even knew they were missing, ever.
That's interesting.
Did you catch the ambiguity? You didn't. It slid right by you.
I think that one may have, because I'm over here thinking too about the similarities too of how when a musician is creating a piece of music, we're literally manipulating sound. And
Yeah,
when we use lyrics, we're using our words to elicit emotion.
of course.
And so people may have a preconceived notion that society has given them that selling it is a bad thing or being
Well, look how you've
manipulated.
been manipulated. Manipulation. Now that's manipulation in a
Yeah.
bad.
And this is something we've talked about is I believe, this is my own personal quirky opinion. I believe that idea is proliferated through society to actually discourage competition from the people that understand that it actually does serve value in a positive way that can serve other people. Now, some of it may be, unintentional. Some of it may be intentional because human beings, we try to do good. And sometimes what we think is trying to do good is actually not good. There's a lot of things in history that point to that. And so I think when it comes to money and entrepreneurship, society has, in their own idea of good intentions, maybe trying to say, oh, don't be greedy, don't be like this, don't be manipulative. They've actually, in turn, manipulated people into having a perspective about money that holds them back in their life.
I
It's
think
very,
you
yeah.
nailed it. I
Well,
think you nailed
thank
it.
you. Yeah, I'm really grateful that you were able to hop on this call today because the musicians that have been paying attention, and I know those who have been paying attention have gotten insane value from
And
this.
I include singers as music. I love singers. That's just an amazing talent. Just amazing.
Oh yeah. To me, like I think it was Nietzsche said, "Life without music would be a mistake" or
I
something.
wouldn't want it. I definitely couldn't. I don't trust people who don't love music or who don't love cats.
Yeah.
Don't look me up if you don't like cats, ladies. I
Oh yeah. I'm
love
as an
look at
animal
my
lover
shirt.
myself too. Like I could be the biggest, baddest dude, and then a cat or dog comes up to me, and I instantly melt. I've mentioned that on the show. Cats and money. Never forget, ladies and gentlemen, cats and money.
Cats and money. So are you getting any questions from these people?
Right now, I'm
Are they
getting mostly
cowards?
comments about how awesome it is. I haven't got any questions though, unfortunately. But for those of you that missed out on
Let's hear.
questions,
Feed my ego. Let's hear.
I'm getting tons of rock horns. I'm getting tons of people that are saying I am here for this, listening from work, and let's see, but I'm here for this. This is all wonderful. Yeah, dude, this is great, man. I love that you're having a positive impact on these musicians because having talked with lots of them one-on-one, these are the things that I feel like really have held them back. And what we've talked about today has been a great kind of hopefully hammer to those false beliefs to eviscerate them and replace them with beliefs that actually serve them and actually move them forward. So before we wrap up, is there any kind of final word that you would want to leave the audience
Sure.
with?
Let me do this. Musicians, I do have a flagship course that's is a big investment. So my suggestion, if you want to continue to learn from me, get my book on Amazon. It's called Subtle Words That Sell. There's a ghostwritten piece of shit book that my coach encouraged me. He goes, it's a piece of shit, but Subtle Words That Sell is a masterpiece. And I did mean it. I am single. I look for every opportunity to fish in the biggest ponds I can. So I'm not going to give out my email address because put in the fucking work. If you're a lady and you want, I'm serious, put in the work, find me, Google Paul Ross NLP, find me and take some action. Email me, find me. I'm not giving out my email. You put in the damn work if you want an introduction to me.
Absolutely. Well, Paul, thank you so much again. And I think to end this, I'll leave musicians with this. I will have a link to pick up your copy of Subtle Words That Sell in the description. So
Yeah.
be sure to click that link if you want to check out Paul's book. I was going to have it in my hand right now, but a storm came through recently. And
You know what? What the
delayed my
fuck?
package,
Make
so
it
now I'm like,
easier. Make it easier. If for any reason you want to talk to me, just email me, paul@speakerpaulross.com. Because I know some people are just too lazy and too inept to Google me. So I don't care. If you love me, if you hate me, I love hate mail. Just Google paul at speakerpaulross.com. And if I have time to get to it, I'll get to it. And if not, it's a shot for you. So
well, Paul, thank you so much for being on the program today. Thank you so much for all the value that you provide to the world and
thank you for letting me, I would suggest one thing to everybody. Go back and replay this, but don't watch it. Just close your eyes and listen, because that's when the voice and the words really have the impact. That's what I suggest you do for real.
Absolutely.
And then if you can get it transcribed, get it transcribed.
Yeah, I love that.
When you transcribe something,
Paul, you subtle dude, you. This is why
I'm not
this is
subtle.
why we had him here, man. Well, thank you guys so much for attending this stream. I will be sure to keep this up for you guys. We'll post the notes in our Facebook group. Thank you guys again for tuning in, and we'll see you on another episode. Take care, everybody.
Shalom, shalom.